So I read the book, The Practice of Not Thinking, and in this book, a Buddhist monk tells me that laughing is related to 3 poisons: confusion, it says here, aggression, and greed. And I thought, no, that's a line that's totally rubbed me the wrong way. This book is saying something that I totally disagree with, and it is irritating me, and I really need to scratch that itch. So what the book gets right is this idea of Kalisha, the 5 mental conflictions, and I want to draw it for you. Ignorance, pride, attachment, anger, and we also have fear, which can also be suffering or fear of loss or something changing. So all 5 of these would affect our mentality. Like, you know, they all link together, and they're all like a mental thing that causes us pain, that causes us suffering, and these are just all in our head. And the book talks about these straight away, and that's what I thought was really good about the book, is that straight away it gets to the point, teaches you all 5 of these things, and the whole book is really about these and how to deal with them, because our suffering is generally in our mind. It is when we can't control our mind, when our mind starts wandering. So I just want to read you this quote. Note the difference between the following: the passive state of seeing and the active state of looking, the passive state of hearing and the active state of listening, the passive state of noticing a smell and the active state of smelling something, the passive state of tasting something and the active state of savoring it, the passive state of touching something and the active state of feeling it. So this is the Buddhist idea of focusing, of like really putting your mind to it. Like, I'm doing this one thing, I'm focusing on it. And when we get like these thoughts in our head and we start to drift, like, oh my gosh, what is someone going to think about this meal, or something like that, or what is someone going to think of me when I wear this thing? But really, when we just focus on one thing, all those other things just fade away. And that's the general idea of this whole book. So if you look at the quote, this happens in page 12. And this is what I think is like the best part of the book, is actually at the start. And the rest of the book, this is where it lost me. So every single point in this book is a hypothetical relating to these ideas of Kalisha and suffering and, you know, pride, ignorance, all of those things. And this is where it kind of lost me quite a lot, because none of them were real stories from the author. None of them were real scenarios. None of them were backed up by science. They were just literally him saying, here's a scenario of this. Here's a made up thing happening here. Imagine if this. And this was like really, really lost me, because I wanted to hear true stories from the author. I wanted to hear real experiences the person's gone through. And there's none of that in here. The only part that actually happens in is when he talks about laughing being a poison. And this kind of this irritated me quite a bit, actually, him saying that laughing was linked to pride, arrogance, and pain. And it's because a time in his life when he was struggling, he went to comedy bars. And he went to comedy bars to vent and to change his emotional state. And he linked that to pride. He linked that situation to experiencing joy as changing his state. And where I disagree with that entirely. I think laughter is linked to joy, and it's not linked to someone other's judgment or anything like that. That's purely just an emotional expression. So the only time that I found his actual story, his actual experience, was something I totally disagreed with. Anyway, the personal view of this book is, for me, the practices and the ideas in this book work for me. I do these things. I meditate, I self-reflect, I take time to process and think of things and center myself again and focus on one thing. So the ideas in this book do work. I just needed something more. I needed some story. I needed something that would move me. Like, having hypotheticals is not how we connect with an author or a book. We want to hear true stories. We want to hear actual situations. We want the ideas in this to be actually backed up by science or some sort of fact, rather than just like, hear me out, this is what I think, here's an idea, here's a random story that will back this up, which didn't like work for me at all. And then the problem with this is the ideas in this book do work. I do them. But this book did not convince me to do them at all, even though I know they work. So it was really like a tossing and turning of like, If only this was written in a different way, or if he backed up his ideas a bit more, this book would have been absolutely great. But it was just filled with hypotheticals and micro contradictions all through it. So it kind of lost me a little bit. And I felt really bad about it. So I'd actually have to give this book maybe a 2 or a 3 out of a 10, honestly. But if you want to actually learn something, if you want to actually implement some of the ideas in this book, then I'd highly recommend you read this book over here, The Courage to be Disliked, and I'll catch you over there.